US President Barack Obama has addressed students in London on the second day of his visit to the UK. Obama noted how proud he was of his healthcare policies and says he remained true to who he is during his presidency. The US President has also encouraged the students to continue to shape the world.
My primary message today is going to be to reject pessimism and cynicism. Know that progress is possible, that our problems can be solved. Progress requires the harder path of breaking down barriers and building bridges and standing up for the values of tolerance and diversity that our nations have worked and sacrificed to secure and defend. Progress is not inevitable, and it requires struggle and perseverance and discipline and faith.
Simon McGregor-Wood is in London following Obama's speech. Simon, he took 10 questions in the town hall. What were the highlights for you?
Well, I think the sense of engagement, the clear sense that President Obama likes these kind of events, the idea that he was reaching out to the future generations, a common theme, enjoys clearly talking to young people. Very broad-ranging, wasn't it? Questions concerning a whole range of issues, from Northern Ireland and the United States' steadfast support, trying to build that peace process. That was the first question. He got a question about spending priorities as a president. He said, as many leaders, he felt security, keeping his country safe, was a top priority. But that's not necessarily always all about soldiers and weapons. It's about building trust and diplomacy. He spoke about the example of persuading the Iranians to give up their nuclear weapons ambition as an example of security through diplomacy. He tried to reassure the largely British and therefore European audience about this forthcoming TTIP trade deal. A lot of people in Europe are a little bit suspicious about that and whether or not it favors the United States and their big corporations over things like workers' rights and representation and health and safety standards. He sought to try and assure people about that deal. It's not a done deal yet. He was asked about what he thought his legacy was, and he jokingly said, well, I'm not finished yet. I've got about 8 months to go before he hands over the baton of leadership to whoever wins the next presidential election. He spoke about climate change, the kind of leadership skills. He was asked, he thought that thick skin has been a useful leadership skill for anyone in the White House. And then he spoke about climate change and recognizing people who don't have the same opinions as yourself. It was a rallying call to young people not to be pessimistic, not to be isolationist, and to seize the future. You have the tools now to shape a better reality. Things don't always happen quickly. You have to stick with them. Just a quick conversation with a handful of people as they've come out. Very enthusiastic, very inspiring. Clearly, the vast majority of the people who were lucky enough to be in that hall behind me had a very, very positive experience of President Obama's speech.
Now, interestingly, there wasn't a question on the referendum being held on June 23rd. He has caused a bit of controversy with his comments. What have the British papers been saying?
Well, the British papers here are very partisan on all political issues. No difference on this referendum on the UK's future. Some newspapers are very much against it. Some newspapers are campaigning very much on behalf of those who want to remain in the UK. And so, opinion in the papers this morning in the UK is very much divided, according to which one you read. Some have called President Obama's intervention some kind of ultimatum, some kind of abandonment of the special relationship. Others have pointed to the fact that as the UK's oldest and closest ally, he has an opinion and we should be listening to it. The one takeout thing, I think, however, has been his very specific reference to this whole idea of the UK leaving the European Union being a bad idea. The Leave campaign, as one of the central planks of their argument, has been, it'll be okay. We'll be able to forge trade relationships with new people, with China, the developing world, and, of course, with our old ally, the United States. And on that, he was very, very robust. He said, don't count on it. I would much rather, as the President of the United States, do a deal with you, UK, in Europe. And if you come to me and say, I want a new deal as no longer a member of the European Union, you may eventually get one, but you'll be at the back of the queue. Being at the back of the queue to negotiate some kind of new trade relationship with the United States, that's been a killer line. It's in all of the newspapers, and most of the opinion suggests that that will be a very damaging blow to those people trying to persuade the British electorate on June the 23rd to vote for this country to leave the European Union. So he's created a big stir. We're not quite sure how it will reflect in the votes, of course, yet, but it'll be interesting to see how the polling is affected by the Obama visit. We'll be watching those numbers very closely in the weeks to come, of course.
OK, Simon McGregor-Wood in London, thank you.